Good morning, everyone. I request all the speakers to turn on their cameras. Thank you. If the speakers are ready, may I begin?
I'm good. I think we can go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's podcast session. I'm Anli Anil, and I will be your host for today. On behalf of the Placement Cell of Soil, I am delighted to welcome you all to this online podcast, Law Unboxed. We are really glad to see such an enthusiastic response from students and young professionals joining us today. The session has been curated especially to give you practical insight into the legal profession, straight from those who are actively practicing and navigating the field. The same will be recorded and aired on all social media platforms of the Placement Cell of Soil. Now, coming to the highlight of today's session, our speakers. I'd like to welcome our first speaker, Professor Akash Gupta, an associate professor and assistant director of the Center for ADR at Jindal Global Law School and a visiting faculty at NLSIU Bangalore. An arbitrator and mediator, he's an alumnus of TNNLU and Stockholm University with advanced training from the Paris Arbitration Academy and the Hague Academy of International Law. Awarded Young ADR Academic of the Year, he has 10 Scopus Index publications and regularly judges international moots, including the WIS and JESA. Our next guest, Advocate Ashwin Suren, is a distinguished alumna of the School of Excellence in Law and is a practicing advocate before the High Court of Madras, specializing in commercial laws and arbitration. He currently serves as Secretary General of the Alliance Franca of Madras and is the founding president of the Indian Society for Universal Dialogue at SOIL. We also have with us Advocate Echin Sriharini, another distinguished alumna of the School of Excellence in Law, and currently practices both direct and indirect taxes before the Honorable Madras High Court and various tribunals. An accomplished mooter and public speaker, she has emerged as winner and finalist in over 20 plus Premier National Moot Court competitions. She has played a pivotal role as the president of the Moot Court Association of SOIL and in mentoring students and leading national level mooting initiatives. We are truly grateful to all three of you for taking out of your busy schedule and to be with us today and to share your journey and insight. Welcome, you three. Without further delay, let's dive straight into the discussion. Sirs and ma'am, to start us off, I'd like to begin with a question that many of our students are curious about, which is to know about your journey into the legal profession and how you found out your way into the area of practice you're practicing right now.
I'll go at the end. You guys can go.
Yes.
Okay, so I thought the first speaker would take the cue, but okay. Well, first of all, good morning, and thank you for having me here. I don't know how I deserve the merit of being here, given the fact that there are already distinguished people, and Harini has excelled herself at college. I remember, and the Professor Akash Gupta has his own reputation. I've seen some of his lectures as a student as well. He's a veritable expert in.
You are making me feel old.
Sorry.
You are making me feel older now.
Well, sir, I mean, it's all about the experience. But then coming back to your question as to how I discovered the law, well, it was basically, I come from a non-law background. I mean, in the sense, nobody in my family is a lawyer. But it was a mere suggestion by my once my grandfather came to me and told me when I was in ninth standard, why don't you consider being a lawyer? Because he saw that I was able to, I had this flair for reading and for writing and for speaking. So because of that, he thought that law should be a good profession for you because there's a lot of reading to do, a lot of writing to do, and of course, undoubtedly, a lot of speaking to do. So that just germinated an idea in my mind, and I never had any strong. In fact, I never knew that there existed something called the CLAT examination, even in my 12th standard, because that was so. That basically shows how withdrawn I was from the whole idea of getting into a law school. So I finished my 12th standard, and the first thing I did was to apply for BA Economics honors at Loyola College, and my second application was to the School of Excellence in Law, and I got in at Loyola College. I was there in Loyola College for almost a month until I got my call letter from the School of Excellence. That's where I made the decision: should I be an economist? Because I always wanted to be an economist as well. So I thought, should I continue doing my BA Economics at Loyola, or should I switch over to law? And then a small practical decision that I made was that if you were to study economics, perhaps you may not become a lawyer, but if you study law, you can still do economics. So because it's a professional degree after all, and that's how my journey into the School of Excellence in Law began. And I believe that it has been so far a very rewarding experience because particularly given the fact that in a place like school SOEL, you have a lot of freedom. You may not have a strong institutional setup that is rigorous for you academically, that is forced upon you. You have the choice to make it rigorous for yourself because you have so many opportunities and so much of freedom that is handed over to you, given the fact that even your classes are just for 3 to 4 hours in a day. So you literally have the entire day with you. So I made use of that opportunity. I explored a lot of avenues as a law student, which I'm sure even you can relate to. So that was my beginning, my humble beginnings into the law, and now it's been more than a year and a half since I've been practicing before the High Court of Madras with a senior advocate. It's been a very encouraging environment. There's lots and lots of things to learn, and with that introduction, I would hand over to the other speakers to share their experience.
Yes, thank you, Ashwin. So, uh, good morning, everyone. So, it's so nice to see that there is like a pretty much crowd on a Saturday morning. So, firstly, yesterday when Fatma sent me the invite, I was basically shocked to see like why me, because I just passed out from SOEL like in May 2025. So I'm a very recent law graduate of SOEL. So it's a pleasure to be invited here, and thank you so much, Placement Cell, for inviting me. So now coming to your question, why law? So I think my path of travel is somewhat very similar to Ashwin because initially I wanted to do journalism, and it was the same Loyola where I applied. So the day before my journalism admissions, so my grandfather is this person who files a lot of public interest litigations in the court. So he's kind of the social activist who's like who wanted to like go to courts and file cases. So it was one such day, like exactly the day before my Loyola admissions for journalism. So I went with my grandfather because I was so bored at home, and it was exactly the COVID time where you can't go out anywhere. So my grandfather was like, "Okay, you come and accompany me to the court." I just went like that, And that's when I just went with him inside the court, like not inside the court hall, just outside the court building. That's when I found something. So I just found all the journalists who were just standing outside the building, the red building. They were not even let inside. But then, I just saw all these men and women with black coats and gowns, which is, they were like all these bees that we see. Like they just, they were so rushly. They were walking here and there. So it was their hustle culture that kind of, inspired me. And I was like, okay, probably I should take law. It was such a very random decision I took, and I did law. And then after into my law school, so again I spent my first 2 years in online classes because it was again COVID. But then right now I am practicing in taxation, so I practice both direct and indirect taxes. So why into this field, why into taxation? Again, that just puts me to another story, so which again comes back to my in my second year, when for our college we conduct this taxation moot court competition, and I was a part of the moot court association. So that's when we were like going to every chamber of the judges to invite them for the finals. And it was they all had some event in the high court, so technically nobody was available to judge the event. So that's when that's when I entered into the chambers of Honorable Justice Mohammed Shafiq. So where we had a conversation, like I invited him, but then he was not available that time. But then we had a small conversation, and he was asking me, where are you interning? And I just told him, no, Lordship, right now I'm not interning anywhere. I'm just on a break. And then he was like, okay, you come and join my chambers. So that's when I joined his chambers. And then luckily at that time he was practicing, his portfolio involved customs, excise, and indirect taxes. So that's how I got into taxation. And then I interned with him for 1 year. And that's when I got to know all these standing councils who are practicing in taxation. So I just went there, I interned there, and then now somehow I am into taxation. So this is the whole story of why law and why into tax. Yeah. So thank you. So over to you.
Okay, first of all, a very good morning to all the students, and thanks for joining us on a weekend. Inspiring stories from Ashwin and Harini. It is my pleasure to join you guys here at the Placement Cell Career Podcast by School of Excellence in Law. I did my graduation from Tamil Nadu National Law University, so it's always a pleasure to come back to law schools in Tamil Nadu. Okay, so my stories is pretty much this. When I was in class 11th, so I was in Kendriya Vidyalaya, the central school, which you call it in general. So my dad used to work for railways. Now he's retired. He's an engineer. So we were posted in Patna and Gorakhpur. So at that point of time, there was this very famous Hindi TV show on Sony, which was Adalat by Ronit Roy. So that was because I have no one in my family coming from the law background. So I used to watch that, and for like 2 months or something, I also enrolled for this coaching for, the JEE as usual, because I was doing physics, chemistry, maths, computer science. But 2 months down the line, I understood that this engineering thing or this JEE preparation is not going to work out. So I was very smart at that point of time. I asked my parents to just pay the first installment, which is like the first 3 months of the fee for this coaching. And then I was watching this show. Then I started using internet, that how do you actually become a lawyer? So I wanted to be a criminal lawyer at that point of time because I was watching this show where he was a very good criminal lawyer. Then I found something like CLAT. So my story is pretty much like this in the CLAT aspect, that I was unaware of CLAT because in my family it was more about engineering, it was AIEEE, JEE, then you have the state, this engineering entrance examinations of all the different states. So I thought maybe this is the best shot I have. Then I enrolled for CLAT. And then things work out. But things didn't work out in one go. So I got a rank in which I wasn't getting the NLUs in the first, second, third list. So then I tried my level best to get NLUs, but I couldn't in the first list. Then I joined in the Karnataka State Law University Law School, Hubli. So there is this state law university in Karnataka, pretty much like your Tamil Nadu model, that you have like 7 colleges, including SOEL, including government law colleges within the ambit of Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law University, but it's pretty much like 7-10 law schools. In Karnataka, it's like 100 law schools within the Karnataka State Law University. So basically, every private university also has to be involved in that, unless until you are a separate university. So I went to that law school. It was almost August, first week or something in 2013. And by that time, I got a call from Tamil Nadu because I used to apply for the vacant seats allocation. And then my luck changed, and then I got a seat at Tamil Nadu National Law University. So this was pretty much like how a person from a small place in Bihar. I come from a small place which is called Champaran in Bihar. So some people know it, some people don't know it. So if you don't know it, it's the place where Gandhiji started Satyagraha. But the other famous thing, which is very famous in the Gen Zs, it's the Champaran Martyr. That's the idea how you get to know Champaran. So this was the story from there. Then I had a lot of schools changing from, Patna, Gorakhpur, Banaras, and then different places. Then I went to Tamil Nadu National Law University, and coming from Bihar to, UP, and then coming to Tamil Nadu, it was a lot of changes because first I was there for like 30 days in Karnataka. Then I was in, Trichy. I came, it was a lot of different things. And that was also the time when Tamil Nadu National Law University was just starting. It was the first batch. It wasn't like, established institution has a set of rules, a set of regulations. For example, the Moot Court Society is already there. Like how the inductions happen, whether it's going to be individual inductions or whether it's going to be team based. So everything was very new. So there were challenges, but the good part of that was there was also a lot of opportunities. If you look at from a positive lens, the opportunities in a sense that we had a very limited pool, which was like 80 students for the whole of the university, at least in the first year. Then we were like 160, then it increased by the time we went to third, fourth, fifth year. So this is something like from my school to Tamil Nadu National Law University. And then, of course, I did a lot of moves because in my law school, if you had to do something, at least at my point of time, one thing which you need to do to make sure that people in your law school take you seriously, people know you, and you also develop skills in a law school which is starting from that particular year. I think there is nothing better than mooting because a lot of students now say that, I have not been taught arbitration. So why do I sign up for this moot? When it's arbitration, it's going to come in my third year, fourth year, fifth year. If you think from that perspective, you have to be a graduate to do a moot. Think it from that perspective. So I took it more like as an opportunity, and there were a lot of good faculties in my law school who actually said that you don't have to wait. You have to learn. If you really think that you can do moots with your classroom teaching, like whatever is taught in classroom, that is something exactly you're going to copy paste. That's not how you do it. So I did a lot of these things, moot internships, and it eventually worked for me. Cut short, legal teaching arbitration. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sirs and ma'am. That was very insightful. I think some of us can relate to the first very initial law school journey that Sriharni ma'am and Ashwin Suren sir had just shared. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the questions that students have shared through the registration forms. I'll take up a few of those now. First question is to Sriharni ma'am.
Yes.
Since you're
Yes, and
Yes, okay. Since you are a very fresh law graduate and a law school just ended and practice just began, what was the first habit from law school that you had to consciously unlearn once you entered practice?
okay. So this is a very good question because the moment I was a bit motor in law school, okay, so I did like kind of 30 to 35 modes during my law school days. And what mooting teaches you precisely is they emphasize so much on the court manners, like I hope every mooter can relate to this. Like even when you have to reach the podium, you ask permission for everything. And in the moot court competition, if you don't follow those court manners, you are going to be screwed by the judges. That's some like, but when I went to the court and it was my first appearance in the high court, I just followed the exact moot court procedure. And the first question that the judge posed to me was, are you a mooter? I was just startled. I was like, yes, Lordship. And he was like, you need not be that formal in courts. Moot court is completely different from courts. So that's, the excess court manners, I would say, you should have court manners, but not that much as we learn in moot courts. So that's one thing that I actually found it hard to unlearn, because something that stuck with me for 5 years, and if somebody is going to come and tell me to, you should not do this much, you should like stick to your boundaries, I just found it a little difficult there. So probably that's one thing I would say.
Talking about practice, many juniors talk about feeling invisible in the court. Have you experienced such a phase?
Honestly, no, because I think I would give all the credits to my office, because I worked at SAPR, which usually conducts the Ramamani Moot Court competition in collaboration with our college. So I had the opportunity and privilege to work there, and probably my office, I was the only junior in the whole office. So other people, they were all the senior partners. So probably I would give all the credit to my seniors, because even when it's a very small case that we win, which I have worked and they win the case, they would eventually give the credit to me. So I think being invisible or not, that entirely depends on the senior whom you're working under. There are actually a lot of great seniors who trust you and give you works. And even my office, like, they gave me the opportunity to go and represent in the court even in my first month of me joining there. So I think I personally have never felt that way.
Thank you, Shriyani, ma'am. Next question is to Ashwin Suren, sir. Everyone's curious to know your journey of building ISUD in a college. Could you share your experience on that?
Okay, that's another lovely question. Basically, so ISUD. Well, so when I joined School of Excellence first year, it was 2019, and 2020 came, COVID came, 21 came. So literally, almost it became a fractured experience in college. So so there was this inherent need that I have not spent as much time as I'd love to in college, and I found that there was something that was missing in the school. We've had a perfectly well functioning and well oiled moot court association, of which I was a member in my first year, and also basically ad hoc in many other events related to the moot court. So when I saw that there existed only one strongly functioning student society, I felt that there needs to be another parallel organization, or if not another independent organization, that encompasses something which is beyond mooting, that is the other aspects of the law. A law university is a place where you discuss ideas, issues that concern society, that all of us are involved in. So I felt that there needs to be something of that sort of an indirect student union, where students can come together and discuss, issues, and raise matters, debate. Although debating was not entirely the motive, it is one of the motives of the ISUD. So my journey as to how it began was that when I was in my fourth year, I felt that we need to have a separate student society in SOEL. And so I started brainstorming. I started thinking, what can we do? How can we bring about a unique organization that has a wider objective? And that's how the proposal for ISUD came into being. I had discussed with Ranjit sir, who is also the patron professor for ISUD, who supported us initially and even now. We came up with a proposal. I went to the vice chancellor and I requested him. I told him, I convinced him basically to help us establish this society, and it came into being. And we inaugurated it on 30th of September 2023. I remember it vividly because we had Justice M. Sundar of the Madras High Court, who came for the inaugural, and Mr. Guru Krishna Kumar, senior advocate at the Supreme Court of India, who flew down from Delhi for the inauguration. We also had some diplomats from the Australian consulate, from the French consulate, who had come for the inaugural. So basically, it was aimed as a student society, which is also lined on the models of the Oxford Union, where if you take a look at the Oxford Union, you have this space where freedom of speech is given so much of importance. And given that we are in a law university, we need to be forebearers of Article 19, especially because there needs to be a space where we're able to provide and we're able to protect the freedom of speech. So that was also one of the objectives of the organization. Luckily, Justice M. Sundar was also somebody, when he was studying in the Madras Law College, who started an organization that was similar to this. So he was able to share some of his views on, on the importance of such organizations, and that's how ISUD began. It's been very fulfilling, because I see that after this step was taken, after this platform was made, more and more students have taken a lot of interest in ISUD. They have expanded it into so many. There is a blog writing competition, there's a debate competition, there are outreach programs, there are conversations, and so many other things that are being discussed and that are being formulated. And I'm very happy to state that this is totally student led. There is no interference from the management. That's also because the fact that we have established a standard, that gives us that freedom, like how the MCA has its own freedom. ISUD has established and created a space where it has its own freedom to organize such events without any interference from the management. So students are free to think and free to come up with innovative ideas, and it makes your student life more vibrant, because when you belong to an organization like this, when you contribute to such things, you not only build on your human resource skills, but also your organizational skills, which are very important as a lawyer, because these are a lot of we undermine these skills in many ways. It's not only about being able to reach out to people, it's also being able to explore what you think is important for you. And that, I think, ISUD has successfully given to a lot of students. So that would be my, exploration as to how it began. With that, I hand it over to you.
Thank you so much for sharing this inspiring journey, sir. Next question is to Akash, sir. One of our students, they've mentioned that their long-term goal is to work in international human rights institutions. And they've asked what steps should they prioritize in the next 2-3 years in their law school to build a competitive profile from India.
Okay. Toughest question to me, thanks to you. Okay. Now, if we talk about any field in international law, it looks very attractive when you are in law school. It looks easy, but it's actually one of the toughest things. The reason why I call it difficult, because you need to hit more criteria to make a career in international law. Doesn't matter whether it's human rights, whether it's international law, whether it's international commercial arbitration law. The reason why I say you need to hit more criteria, one is that, of course, you need to have a basic understanding of international law. When I say international law, it has to be public, private. Let's say if you are more interested in human rights, then there is also international human rights. If you are more interested in international commercial arbitration law. Now, these are the criterion, the mandatory criterion coming from your law school curriculum. When I say law school curriculum, it means that it has to be taught in School of Excellence in Law, either as a core course or as an elective. Now, if we talk about the Indian law schools, not a lot of law schools offer many electives on these subjects. For example, in Tamil Nadu National Law University, we had a lot of mandatory courses because we didn't have a lot of students. So all the electives were pretty much like take it or leave it. Like out of 2, you have to choose one. There was nothing like an option that you have 100 electives. For example, at General, we had like 200 electives, where the students can just bid for the electives which they want. Now, all of these comes within the first criterion, which is the law school curriculum. The second is, if you want to make a career there, and if you think that you do the basic law degree from any jurisdictions, including India, and then you become the legal counsel at Permanent Court of Arbitration in Hague, or you become a legal counsel at International Criminal Court. No, it doesn't work like that. For example, if you want to work in an Indian law firm, doesn't matter tier 1, 2, 3, the minimum requirement is your Indian law degree. But that's not the minimum requirement for any of these international organizations. When they look for hiring, they look for two things, pretty much the same, which is with the Indian recruiters also. One is that you have an interest in that particular field of law. Two is that how you try to pursue it on your own. Now, the first question, that whether you have an interest, this question is pretty much like that if I say I'm the biggest fan of Shah Rukh Khan, isn't that all of you will say the same? For example, if you say you're the biggest fan of Vijay, I'm pretty much sure that a lot of Tamilians will say that I love this actor and I'm the biggest fan. Everyone will say that, but how do you prove it? The second question is very important. That how do you actually showcase that you have tried to pursue it? How do you showcase that you are the biggest fan of Shah Rukh Khan? Just to give you an example from the movie Fan, there was a fan who was doing crazy things for Shah Rukh Khan. Now, how do you actually prove potential recruiters in these organizations that you have tried to learn it on your own? I'll use Ashwin's or Harvey's example here. Now, Harvey says that she has done a lot of mooting in the law school. Let's say if she has done 5 or 10 moots out of the 30 moots in international human rights law, or I'll take the example of international commercial arbitration. Let's say she has done all of this, and then she does a training in pretty much the same field, which is, let's say, arbitration summer school happening at Delhi, Chennai, or anywhere. That's two things. Let's talk about Ashwin. When he talks about this, mooting culture, this organization, his involvement with, the popularizing of French as a language. Now, if he wants to do something in an international organization seated in France, that is going to, of course, help. And these are the criteria which are in addition to the law school curriculum. Now, a lot of time we get this question that, does marks matter? A lot of these students ask me, do you think that if I don't have good grades, see, it's a misnomer. A lot of people answer it very wrongly. I never say that marks are not important. If somebody is saying that marks are not important, I don't agree with it. Marks are important. Find me one person who has got 33% passing marks and you apply to any firm in India and they accept it because of that. So marks are important. Marks are a lot of times one of the foremost criteria. When I say that, I'm not saying marks is everything, but marks are important. And when I say marks, I'm not saying that you need to have 90% plus. I'm saying a decent marks, which is pretty much like 50 to 90 bracket. But the lesser marks you have, the more component you have to add in the other criteria. I'll give you an example. Let's think of this, how you make a career in all of this as a PISA base. Now, your PISA base is more like your marks. That's the main, ingredient. But let's say if your PISA base is not very good quality, like let's say Domino's or Pizza Hut, you are a local vendor in Chennai and you are starting this, pizza place, pizza cafe or something. You don't have a very good base, but what you come up with is very exotic veggies coming from South Africa, coming from US, all of this. All cheese are imported from Australia. Don't you think it will cover up? Of course it will cover up. But that doesn't mean that your pizza base is of no quality. Do you understand this? So all of this boils down to this, that one is your law school curriculum. Two, the examples are mooting, or let's say any other initiative related to that particular field. For example, Ashwin has been doing different things in the law school. Internships, a lot of us know it, so I'm not going to spend more time. And when I say internships shouldn't be like, let's say if you're interested in human rights and all of your internships are at Kocher and Co Chennai office, in the commercial law department, in the transactions department, does that add anything? Technically, no. 1, 2, 3 internships in different fields, it's all fine. But if all the internships are in litigation, and then you say that, oh, I want to do something in arbitration or I want to do something in fashion law, does that make sense to you? So you have to put yourself in the shoes of the potential person who's going to read your application. You have to think from that perspective. Just to give you an example for this, a lot of times we are very emotional with things which we have written in our CVs. I'll give you an example. I have seen students writing that I have, I have done these 5 things at the top, which are not actually important for the recruiter. I'll give you an example. I have done 5 internships in, let's say, different fields. And the 6th internship, which is pretty much related to that application, comes at the 6th point. And the CV is like 4 or 5 pages. The last time I checked, if your first page doesn't convince me to flip page, I'm not going to read your second page. So what is important for you, what is very close to your heart, it's different. But you have to think from the potential recruiter or potential person who is going to read your application, and whatever is important for that particular job description, internship description, you have to prioritize that. And the shorter version it is, the more clear it is. I will say it's very attractive, because I don't think anyone will go and read your full 3 pages of your CV. So in terms of international human rights, one thing which is, I will say, I highly recommend it, because I have also done it. I have seen a lot of people who have been working international criminal court or any human rights organization at Hague have one thing in common, which is the Hague Technique of International Law. So I have done it in 2025. They have 2 versions. One is the summer school, where they have a division. One is private international law 3 weeks. The other one is public international law 3 weeks. So if you are more interested in human rights, public law, you should do the second one. But I did the winter school, because winter school is a mix of both of them, which is public and private international law, because I come from background, so I wanted to do that. That's one. Plus your law school curriculum. Third, you have to start looking at things which are more like summer schools, or which are more like traineeships, internships at these organizations. And these organizations also have some of their South Asia headquarters in Delhi, or some of their local offices, regional offices in Delhi or Chennai or Mumbai. So you have to start targeting those. Now, from those, there are also very good research ongoing on these fields from different, scholars in and around India. So maybe if you can start working with them, that will eventually help. And another thing which is foremost important, there is something called International Law Commission. So for example, in India, we have a Law Commission of India. Think of United Nations Law Commission, which actually guides like what we should do next in terms of modernizing our law. That's the International Law Commission. Now, International Law Commission has more like a body which gives 1 seat to all the UN members. Now, India has also 1 member representative there, and that is Professor Dr. Bimal Patel, who is the current Vice Chancellor Dean of the Rashtriya Raksha University. So he works in international. He's the current ILC member, and he always have openings on LinkedIn and also his official website of the university that he's looking for research assistants. He's also looking for people to hire as a research associate if you are a recent graduate. So that's the best opportunity you get sitting in India, in Gujarat, because you get to work with ILC member. And maybe if you are good with that, you get a good recommendation. You can also get an opportunity to work in the other organization. That's it. Thank you.
That was very insightful, sir. Speaking about applications, do you have any advice or tips that you have to share with our students so that their applications stand out while applying to these international institutions?
Okay, so I'll say that I'll use the keywords which I just shared in the last 3-4 minutes. First is that your application has to be personalized. I'll give you an example of personalized. A lot of times when the students write statement of purpose, now these are don'ts or the red flags as the Gen Z called it. Okay, red flags, pretty simple. All of you use ChatGPT and you provide your CV and then you say, why don't you write my SOP? When you ask ChatGPT to do it, how ChatGPT writes? Think of ChatGPT as the one building of storage of metadata. So everything which is feeded, which is trained to ChatGPT, it will use it and it will create a statement of purpose for you. So if Harini writes to ChatGPT, Ashwin writes to ChatGPT, I write to ChatGPT, pretty much similar prompts. It will not be exactly same because we'll also feed in our details. But if I read 3 applications from that, I easily get it. Why? Because all of them will say something like, All three of us are very disciplined, very diligent, very hardworking, strong recommendation, blah, blah, blah. Now, all of this gives me an idea that this is very generic. That is there in statement of purpose. That is also there in letter of recommendation. Okay. So first I'll talk about statement of purpose. Instead of looking into, I'm not saying that you should not explore your senior's SOP to get some idea. You can, but I highly discourage it. The reason is, if I read statement of purpose of Ashwin and Dharani, I will get influenced, even if it's a small percentage, but then I'll try to make my story pretty much around the same lines. Then it's a red flag, because if they have this SOP, if they have already provided these kind of SOPs, we are not competing me against Harini and Ashwin. There are at least going to be 100 applicants. It's going to be very generic. I'm not saying you are copy pasting from ChatGPT, but still. First is personalized. I'll give you an example of personalized. When three of us were providing our stories, Ashwin said he had an economics background. Harini said that the whole story started from, during COVID, she went with, her grandfather to the court. My story is very funny that, I was watching a TV series and then I was like, oh, let's do it. Do you understand the different stories? But what if all three of us were saying, oh, we were very diligent in our class 11th and we were following all the Economic Times articles and there was an article on CLAT. All three of us say this. Do you actually think it looks original? Forget about how good it is, how good a story is. If it is not original like this, you are going to be rejected just because it's very generic. So that's personalized. Second is how you craft your story. When you have to craft a story in your statement of purpose, you have to start with your background, that who you are. Where does this whole story comes from? For example, the first question you asked. What if you ask the question at the end of this session? Doesn't make sense, right? Second is that how you have tried to pursue this on your own. For example, I'll tell you about my story. For arbitration, what I have done, I did RK Tankha, the arbitration moot. Then I did Jaipur National University arbitration moot, which ignited my interest in arbitration. Then there was this Swiss moot, which used to happen in Hong Kong and Vienna. I did Hong Kong. Then again, I did Vienna. In my master's, again, I did Vienna, where we were top 16. Now, this is how I pursued my interest in arbitration. So I have to write this, that this is the reason why I want to do an LLM or I want to work in this particular field. The third part, which is very important, a lot of times we miss it, is that why I'm the most suitable candidate for this particular organization. If I don't say it, why people should hire me? Why people should select me? So this is one point. And then why the other place, the organization, let's say Stockholm University, where I want to do my LLM, is the best fit for me. Why is it that very much I'm interested in that? There needs to be some sort of alignment of my interest in how their academic program goes. Now, these are the pretty much 4 things from statement of purpose. Letter of recommendation, red flags, biggest red flag in India, the biggest misnomer. I'm going to break it down for you. Big names, big worth. Nothing works like that. Maybe in Indian jurisdiction, if you get, I can't name the designations, but you can easily get the top judicial officers of India. You get a recommendation from the most senior judge of the Indian judiciary, and then you get a seat at any of the LLMs. That's not true. It depends not on the names or the designation. It depends on how personalized it is. I'll give you an example. If somebody who has the highest designation writes that I know Ashwin, he has interned with me, he's very diligent, very hardworking, and I love Ashwin, he's the best. I haven't found any student so diligent than Ashwin. If this recommendation goes to any decent law school in the world, they are not going to consider it. I'm not saying that some of the Indian institutions will not consider it. So it depends. But outside India, not going to be very worthwhile. But if anyone who has a decent reputation, when I say decent reputation, any place, any firm where you work in India, your boss, or let's say your faculty at SOIL, writes a recommendation letter like this. I know Ashwin from the last 3 years. From, let's say, in 2019 or 2022, I was teaching him arbitration, in which he submitted a research article named blah, 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 which he also published in this particular journal. After that, he was in constant touch. I was mentoring him, and he's also working on these 2 projects. And you write a personal story that what are the developments of Ashwin? while during he was a student, after that what he's doing, and then you say out of the batch of, let's say, 80 at SOEL, I rank him in the top 5%, and I give my strongest recommendation to him. Do you think that this has more weight? The answer is yes. Why? Because here I'm actually commenting upon the merit of Ashwin. I'm not saying that he's very diligent, he's very hardworking. Everyone is. You can actually make it up. I can actually also write Ashwin's marks in my books. When I write recommendation, I can write that you have received the outstanding, which is the highest grade actually, right? So all of this is very much personalized. So the red flag is a generic LOR, and big names is always wordful. The answer is no. It's all about how personalized it has been written. So this is about the letter of recommendation. If we follow these two, and also not very long statement of purpose or recommendations. I've seen people writing like 4 or 5 pages of CV, 1 page, that's it. All these big arbitrators also have a 1-page CV. So I had this student and who said that, how can I have a 1-page CV? I have done so many things. And then I had to use a very famous arbitrator in India who has a 1-page CV when he's asked to submit his profile for conflict of interest in becoming an arbitrator. So if he can have a 1-page CV, I'm pretty much sure you can have it. The reason is very, very simple. If you can't convince in 1 page, you actually think if you submit 10 pages, and you always have this full profile link or your LinkedIn link, which anyone can go and click it. So that's my answer to this question.
That was very helpful. Thank you so much for making us realize our own red flags. Thank you, sir. Next question, a lot of students have asked this to all 3 of the speakers is that one reality of the legal profession that law schools don't prepare students for, but every young lawyer should know.
Well, I would like to say that, one thing that probably you don't realize when you're in law school or when you're studying the law is that the law is actually a very empowering profession. And that you will only realize if you are put in a situation where you're able to see it work. Because in law school, you think, okay, you graduated from school and you've come to college and you're just finishing a degree. What is this? I'm learning contracts, I'm learning torts, I'm learning CPC or CRPC. The moment you step in, or the moment you see, the impact that a lawyer can do upon the lives of ordinary people, that's when you realize that it's a very empowering profession, not only by what a lawyer can do, but also what it makes the lawyer or makes the person who is in the pursuit of studying the law. When you realize that that you possess a certain right, or that you possess a certain that there is a way that in which you can persuade someone, or that you can you can fight for a particular cause, and that there exists a pathway in the law, and that there are courts to protect you, or that there are authorities that you can challenge, and that the fact that you can even question a police officer or whether that they are doing their jobs properly or not, that really gives you that gives you an internal feeling that you are empowered. Because when you see something that you're able to identify, even let's say when you're watching, for me, I realize this when I watch, these movies where, the police officer comes and, beats somebody and something or the other, when you realize that, that's actually not legal. That person can be held accountable for what they're doing. That's when you realize that you can question any authority. You can speak truth to power. And that is something that I don't think law schools emphasize on, or that, this is not something that is part of your curriculum. This is something that you can only see the more and more you immerse yourself into understanding what the law is. The law is the edifice upon which the nation is built. Please understand that. That I like to say to every student, that you need to internalize this understanding, that the law is the edifice upon which any civilized nation, any government, because government is bound by rules. It is bound by the regulations that it passes through legislature. And these are subject to judicial review. and that every action of an authority, the biggest suits or the biggest matters that are before high courts and the Supreme Courts are under Article 226 and Article 32 and 136, given the special leave petition. So the apparatus of the law governs everything that we do as human beings, be it business, be it government, be it administration, be it anything. From starting a restaurant to starting a company, everything is being governed by some rules or some law. Every action that we take in society is governed by some law. So if you understand that how intricate this entire system, the legal system is, and that you are part of it, you will realize that you will find strength, that this is something valuable that you're doing. First, I would recommend every student to first realize that thing. That's something that law schools don't teach you, or it's something that's oblivious to anybody who sits in class. Or it depends. If you have a professor who's able to animate this experience to you, that's a different thing. But first thing I would say, this is something that you need to realize in law school. Second is that please understand that you need to cultivate a strong understanding of the basic principles of law. Talking about commercial law, or even arbitration for that matter, it all boils down to the contract. And what is a contract? You need to understand, is not that that offer, acceptance, consideration is equal to a contract. No. You need to understand that the principles that underlie of what makes a contract what it is. What exactly do you think is an offer? What is a consideration? What do you think is acceptance? Not you don't rote learn it that manner. Or you don't say that Section 10 of the Indian Contract Act says that these are the capacities of entering into a contract or something of that sort. You remember that Section 10 is that. But what does Section 10 emphasize? Section 10 can be interpreted and can be applied in so many different manners. And the courts have time and again, gone into the intricate interpretations of these provisions. So basically what I'm trying to say is that look at a subject and have a basic understanding of it. Don't say that, okay, this contract law I learned in first year and that, I passed. Understand the subject, understand the principles behind. Where does it come from? Where does it come from in the common law system? Most of our civil law is derived from the common law system. So if you take a look, you need to go into the history of it. So as a matter of interest, I would recommend every student to, when they're learning a paper, when they're learning a subject in law college, to at least do some basic reading as to what are these subjects, have an understanding that at the end of the 5 years, if somebody asks you a question on what is a contract or what is a tort, that you are in a position to answer them, or at least that you have an understanding of what it is. Marx, as Professor Akash said, it's not everything. It is important. It is definitely important, but it is not everything. You could have been somebody who scored average in college and make it to the pinnacle of the legal profession. Let me tell you that there are so many senior advocates practicing everywhere who openly say that they almost failed in so many subjects in law college, but they're able to stand before the courts and they're able to argue because they have an understanding of what the law is. So try to cultivate that understanding of the law. Third, and the most important thing that I would say, is to read, because by reading, you are inculcating the lived experience of someone. Somebody has reduced into writing their entire experience or their entire knowledge about a particular field, or of something that they have done or something that they've contributed. So in that regard, I would recommend every law student to at least read something like this is something that even professors don't tell you in college, or that is not part of your legal curriculum. But 3 books that have left a mark in me, I would say one is Before Memory Fades by Fali S. Nariman, which is a recent book. And it goes into so many of his experiences he was one of the foremost jurists of India. Imagine, it's like you're having a conversation with Fali Nariman. That there cannot be something greater than that if you're looking into delving into the evolution of jurisprudence in India or litigation in India. I think that is one of the best books that you can read. Second book I would suggest is Roses in December, which is by MC Chagla, one of the greatest judges in the history of Indian judiciary. He was supposed to be the second Chief Justice of India, but due to certain reasons he could not. But he was a polymath. He was not only a judge of the Bombay High Court. He was also a diplomat. He was also made Minister of Law, and he had a brilliant and colorful life. And it is known that he was somebody who was a judge who never reserved his orders. He always gave his judgments in open court. He never took time to reserve his judgment. So that speaks about his caliber. So if you were to read his book on Roses in December, it goes into his life, of his outlook to what the law is and what it means to him. So this is the second book. And the third book, which I think is a very, very interesting and very, it will really change your understanding of what the law is. And that is The Strange Alchemy of Law and Life. The name of the book is The Strange Alchemy of Law and Life by Albie Sachs, who was a great lawyer in South Africa. And he was a right-hand man of Nelson Mandela. He talks about the South African experience of it becoming into a republic against the backdrop of the apartheid movement. So this book really speaks about how the law has so much to do with human rights, and how intricately it's involved in our day-to-day livings, and in the establishment of a state, in the establishment of a country. What role does the law play? These are the certain things, and these are certain philosophical questions that Albie Sachs raises in his book. And Albie Sachs himself was a great lawyer beyond great repute. So these are the three books I would recommend for law students to explore beyond their curriculums, because you never know. At the end of this reading, there are people who say that reading one book has changed their lives. I'm pretty sure you have three good chances of it changing your outlook as to how you see the law. And last thing that I would like to say is that this is an ultra marathon. Today you may see one thing that I find very not disturbing, rather I find it frivolous, is that you see people going berserk on LinkedIn, saying that, oh, I did this, I did that, and they try to expound and extrapolate even the smallest things. I mean, good for them. But what I'm trying to say is that don't get affected because you're seeing somebody, achieving certain things that you think that you've not achieved. Comparison is a thief of joy. It's an ultra marathon. Do not judge your position by an isolated moment in time. The whole picture is what that it matters. At this moment, probably you are in a position that you are, not doing anything, or that you think that you're confused, or you think that, you don't know what to do. But it's only a temporary phase. Please understand that. There have been people, for example, let me take there is a very famous senior advocate, especially practicing in tax. He was a great senior advocate. He enrolled in the Madras High Court in 1953, but he only came regularly to court in the 1980s. And he went on to become one of the greatest tax lawyers in the history of Madras High Court. And her daughter is now a judge of the Madras High Court. I think Arini will know who I'm talking about. You see, somebody like that who went on to become the prima donna of the profession, having had a 20-year late start. Imagine. So don't think that you are, any less than the people that you see on LinkedIn, or who you think are succeeding in life, because it's just a moment. It's a temporary phase. Please imagine of this as something as an ultra marathon. Every step as long as you keep taking a step forward, you are in the right place. No matter where you are standing, if whether you've gotten that internship, whether you've gotten that associateship, whether you think that you've gotten a pre-placement offer, and all these things, and all of that is a very temporary thing. It does not matter in the long run. What you need to do, the only thing that you need to do at this moment is that hold on to an idea and act towards it. It could be, one more thing is that the law you don't have a particular stream. You have so many avenues. For example, if you take a look at the profile of Professor Akash Gupta, the line that he's taken is so unique in itself. He has developed an expertise in international commercial arbitration and is a great academic in that field, and he literally runs the entire department in Jindal. I mean, I'm sure he has, like, he has charted his own path, is what I'm trying to say. And like that, you can chart your own path into the profession, because there's so many things that you can do. You can either jump into litigation, you can either jump into academics, you can go into public policy, you can go into government, explore the options that are available to you. Only thing is, if you feel that you're stagnant in some place, the only possible answer to that is for you to act towards something that you think is suitable for you. And finally, one thing that you are as a student, you have the capability of cultivating a strong network. Let me tell you this: it worked. Is something that I feel, with the hindsight. I mean, I never, reached out to people with the intention of building a network. But then now that I look back, I have built a network that I find that people of in my peers have, are struggling to make, and that's something I did unintentionally. I'm able to at this point call an IAS officer, an IPS officer for something as small as a favor. It's because I was able to build that network, because I was able to reach out to people as a student, and I never held back to that. So, one advantage as a student is that people are willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. So as a student, you can reach out to as many people as possible, build your network. It could be as small as, for example, my current position that I hold. I was elected as Secretary General of the Alliance Française, which is a position that is, I think I'm the youngest in the last 75 years to even hold that position, and I never expected it in the first place. The reason and the way that happened was because when I was in law school, I had the flair to learn French. I started going to classes there. And I was, apart from the classes, I also used to get involved in the activities and the management side of the Alliance Française, where they recognized my capabilities as a law student, and they asked me to be their legal advisor. So as a student, I was their legal advisor. I advised them on contracts, on Societies Act, and certain aspects of how to run an organization as a legal advisor. And when they saw those capabilities of mine, they felt that I would be the right fit to stand for Secretary General, and that so happened to be. And through that experience, I've also built a small clientele of people who I've met on a day-to-day basis, people with whom I spend time without the intention of thinking of building a network. So you see, as a student, you have that benefit of doubt if you let yourself explore, and if you put yourself out there. So these are probably the 5 things that I would like to share with regard to how you can navigate through law as a profession or as a career. It all depends on building your own skill. It all depends on how open you are to putting yourself out there, and the willingness to learn, which is something that you will also understand by reading those books that I mentioned to you, that all of these people who I'm talking about started from scratch. They literally started from scratch. They were probably in a place where you are right now. So learn, be open and willing to learn, and as a substitute or as a complement to what you're learning, put in the hard work, because there cannot be a substitute to hard work. So when you're learning and your efforts that you put, the hard work that you're willing to put are at the same level, there is nothing that can stop you. And that is what I would like to say.
Sir, do you want to answer, or can I just? Yeah.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So just want to keep it very short, guys. So as someone close to your age or just passed out from college, I just learned like 3 things which I would like want to like just tell it out and not go into it. So for me, law practice more than the knowledge of law. What law school did not teach me and what I learned it the hard way is about the people, the persistence and patience. I would just put it into these three stuff. So first, with respect to people, there's like once you get into the legal profession, you are going to meet some very demanding clients, and you are going to meet your seniors who will have high expectations on you. And all the other, you have to meet a lot of people in the court every day, be it the law, the court clerks, be it the registration people at in the registry. So many people you will have to meet on a day-to-day basis, and they are not going to show you a very smiling face every day. They're not going to be like the professors in our college who are going to greet you, who are going to pat on your shoulders and tell you it's okay, you can do better the next time. No, it's not going to be like that. You are at times going to have seniors who will shout at you. So always remember, when your senior is mad at you, that doesn't make them, you should not feel like they hate you. At the end of the day, it's all about how it's for your improvement. And also remember, when your office is going to, my senior told me this. So if you have a smooth office, it means that your office is actually not working. So you should always have just a second. I'm so sorry. Again, so I am in my office right now, and this is how it is going to be. So, yeah. So, you are going to meet a lot of people, and you will have to learn everything in the hard way. So, this is one thing. The second thing is with respect to patience. So, once, even I was one among you who expected that I'm going to be paid high once I enter into litigation, but that's not the reality. So you will have to know that you have to be financially modest when you start your legal career. And again, your initial years are going to be slow. It's not going to be like what we see in movies when our seniors are going to come and give you the whole bunch of case, going to come and give you a case, and they're going to let you do the final hearing. That's not how it is going to go. So you will have to build patience in yourself, within yourself, and you should make sure that the initial years are going to be slow and financially modest. This is with respect to the second thing. And finally, it's with respect to the emotional resilience or the persistence that you need to have. You are going to have a very long day at court. Your case might reach at it might be the last in the list, and it will reach like around 4:45, but still you will have to wait in the court the whole day from 10:30, and that's going to be emotionally tiring, mentally tiring, and even you're going to feel physically tired. But that's how it is going to be. And the worst case is, even if your item is at the last on the list, sometimes the opponent counsel will be like, they come and seek adjournment. And trust me, the amount of heartbreak that you're going to have at that point of time is going to be so hard. But at the end of the day, what matters is your persistence in the field, and you should be emotionally resilient, that no matter what adjournment comes, or even if you lose a matter, you should never lose that uh, you know the spirit in you or the advocacy in you. So these are the three things that law school did not teach me, and I learned it the hard way. And I want my juniors to to be prepared to face all these things. So that's it with me. Thank you.
So you're muted, sir.
Sir, I think you're
Akash,
on
sir, if
mute.
you're speaking. Yes.
So, first of all, pretty much half of the things I agree with my co-speakers, but I beg to differ on some points from my co-speakers. So I have 5 points to make sure, starting with the first. I will say it's a misnomer that it's one perspective that law school didn't teach us. So here I'm going to fight for the law schools and the law faculties. Being in academia, I have my inherent bias. Everyone knows that I'm a faculty. But I will say if you change your lens, if you remove this aspects, you put another perspective, I'm not saying that I'm right and you guys are wrong, but there are two ways to look at it. My job as a faculty is not to say, Harni's or Ashwin's view is right or my view is right. My idea is to give you the two perspectives. One perspective is what Harini and Ashwin rightly pointed us towards this perspective that law school not teach a lot of things. There are some things which we need to work on. I think it's pretty much right, but there is another perspective. I will say that law schools, any law school in India or the world, Doesn't matter whether it's a private, it's a government, it's an international organization funded law school. I think all of the law schools have the minimum criteria, the basic teaching. It's already there. It's all about how these students actually pursue it. So I will say that we didn't learn much, if I have to look at it from that perspective. To make sure that you understand my perspective, I'll give you an example. When I joined Tamil Nadu National Law School, the first semester, it was pretty much late August, September 2013. And it was a very different culture. The food was very different. And we didn't had a lot of basic amenities. You know what I started? The most easiest thing that the Tamil Nadu National Law School doesn't have this, it doesn't have that. I started to think on all the negative perspectives, and I used to be like, this is not worth it. What are they doing? They're not giving us this facility. They're not giving us this opportunities. For example, taking it from examples of Ashwin, that he started this organization where he has all of these fancy guests coming in. It's very easy to travel to Chennai, like your soil, because a lot of these consulate members are already there in Chennai. But Trichy is very far. If you take a train, it's 8 hours. I'll give you my own example. I had to travel thrice to the TNLU after I graduated for some conferences because they were very kind to invite me. It's a task to travel to Trichy from Delhi because there is no direct flight. You have to either get down at Chennai, take a train, which is actually better than waiting for a flight because the overall time is more than actually taking a train. So all of this were very problematic. I started saying that the law school is not doing this, blah, blah, my first semester. But then I realized that there is no end point of this. I can always go on and curse my law school that they don't have this or that. But if I have to do something, I have to work upon myself because that is something which is in my control. I'm not saying that everything was very fancy. All I'm saying is there are problems, there are positives. So I will say the law schools actually give you some portion of it. It's upon you how you actually build it. So think of it more like the building base, the foundation. Now, how you build it, whether you build it like, a temporary structure using iron with all of this plastic sheds of fibers, or if you want to make more like something like Antilla. Now it's upon you. But the basic is something which is provided in a lot of law schools. So I'm not saying that all the law schools are very good with giving you opportunities, giving you a lot of exposure. It also depends on location. It also depends on your resources. So I think there is another perspective which I want to share with the students, that you have to remove this, specs, this lens of looking at it from a negative perspective. I think when Harini and Ashwin say that these are the things to work upon, it's a very positive lens. It's just that a disclaimer that you shouldn't think that SOEL isn't doing this, or some random law school is not doing this, because that's the job profile of your professors or your faculties. What they are saying is that there are these things to be worked upon. But you shouldn't start going with, I'm not saying that you shouldn't make a representation request that why don't we do something like a moot or all of this? Why don't we work towards this? But if you just start talking about it, it's an endless loop. You have to come out of it. Things which are in your control, you have to start doing things like Harni has been doing a lot of things. I'm not saying SOEL is 100%, they have everything, right? Ashwin has started his own organization. So that's the perspective or the overall takeaway which you should have from both the perspectives. That you have to stop thinking very negative, but you have to understand what things to be worked upon and start making it work out. The second point, I'll take it from what Ashwin has said. So here again, I differ a bit from Ashwin. So what Ashwin says that, LinkedIn or any of these social media platforms, I agree totally when he says about the FOMO, that all the Gen Zs have this very common thing. If let's say Harini posts something, Ashwin and I are friends, what we do the first thing is, because Harini is doing something good, we get a FOMO and we can't do that, what Harini is doing. So the most easiest thing for us is to say, oh, that's not worth it. Why she's posting on LinkedIn? Posting on LinkedIn is a personal thing for anyone. If you want it, you post it. If you don't want it, you don't post it. However, one thing which I would like to make clear here is what I do personally. I'll share my story. Whatever work I'm doing, for example, today I'm having this session. What I'm going to do, a very short caption, and I'll post about this. It's a very simple, thing for me, that whatever work I do, I just post it on LinkedIn. I don't think a lot of, for or against, blah, blah, blah. that it's more about I have to write something or anything. But that's also a personal call. But Ashwin also said that one, FOMO is not a good thing. Comparison is not a good thing, which I agree. Posting on LinkedIn, it's your personal thing. If you want to post it, post it. If you don't want to post it, you don't post it. But there is something more than that. And that is that what Ashwin said, that networking, when he was starting this organization, it also helped him creating a good network, right? When he leads this organization. When Harney's story related to going to these judges' chambers, and one of the judges had a conversation and he invited her, why don't you come to my office for an internship? That's the idea of networking. And I always say this to my students, I'll share it here also, that your network is more worth than your net worth. And this 100% applies to all lawyers, doesn't matter you are in academia, you are in legal practice, you lead an international organization, whatever it is. If you have a good network, it's a positive for you. Now, how you make your network? It's not always the case that you can walk into a judge's chamber. It's not that easy that every day you walk into a judge's chambers. It's not every day that you meet a French consulate member at a SOIL event. So you have to make sure that whenever you get these opportunities, you capitalize on it. Now, how you do networking are different examples. One is, inviting judges when you are working for, SOIL MCS. When you are in MCS, you get to meet a lot of judges. You are doing a volunteership with them, or something like Ashwin starting an organization, getting a leadership position there. Another thing which is most easy and why I'm focusing more on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is very international. It doesn't matter whether you sit in Trichy or in Chennai. In 2013, I used to post on LinkedIn. A lot of people keep on saying that, Akash, you post too much. I haven't seen faculties posting too much. You are the only one posting, blah, blah. And my reply is very simple. Why don't you scroll down and go to 2013? I was posting even at that point of time. I still remember in Tamil Nadu National Law University, in the final year, we had this vice chancellor, very good vice chancellor, Professor Dr. Kamla Shankaran, who flipped the image of Tamil Nadu National Law University. And she had this 1 week of full training. We were staying at this judicial academy, and we had this 1 week of training at all the different tribunals, high courts in Chennai. So I was posting every day what we were doing, way back in, I think, 2017. So I was doing this at that point of time also. So it's just the same thing. It's just that now more people know me. So maybe they think that I post much, but I was also posting. Of course, the things were not that much like what I'm doing now because I get more opportunities now. So you have to think what works for you. What is your calling? As Ashwin said, I always tell my students, just because I did moods, or let's say Harni did a lot of moods, or Ashwin has started an organization or started working with, this French language program, all of this, you have to copy us. I never say this. If you are good at something like only researching and writing, that will work out. You don't have to do moods. But what I suggest, if you try different things in the first year or maybe second year, how do you know that you are good at? You never know what you are good at. So at least try for these different things, but don't start, blindly following it. I'm not saying that following Shah Rukh Khan or following Vijay is a bad idea. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is you have to follow, but with smartness. You can't just copy 100% because then you don't want to be the next Vijay. You don't want to be the next Shah Rukh Khan. You have to be like you, right? So you have to focus on yourself, that what is this thing. One thing which I agree that we have to make sure that we teach more of this in the law school. I know I'm very much sugarcoating the law school faculties and the law schools, but there is one thing which I will say in the Gen Z's language. It's the real life versus the real life. Now, all of us accept that the mood courts which we do, Harni has pointed out this example that it's not always the rosy, fancy picture in the courts, right? When you do internships, you'll say that it's a very sweet picture which the faculties portray. It's very simple. You do all of this and everything works on time. You have this timeline in the Arbitration Act. It works like that. Real life versus real life, it's very different. Real life is a lot of times what we have been reading in the books. Not a lot of us are teaching the real life aspects. I'll give you an example. When I teach my arbitration courses at Jindal or National Law School, my elective, I make sure that I use examples which I get from a lot of my friends, that what are the real life problems with the time limits within the arbitration act. It says 12 months, which is the default rule, but none of the arbitration, the physical arbitrations, finish in 1 year. So how does it actually work? You have to go to courts, you have to get an extension. Sometimes it goes beyond 2 years, which is the limit under the arbitration act. There are a lot of problems. We say that multiple appointments is not very good, but multiple appointments keep on happening in big arbitrations in India also, because it's a limited pool of arbitrators. Unless until we tell them that what are the real picture, it's going to be very problematic, because when the students go to, let's say, Harni's firm or Ashwin's firm, you know what they will ask? They'll ask, who taught you arbitration? And the students will be the smartest to answer in a flip of second, Professor Akash Gupta didn't teach us this. And there is a gap in his teaching. So I will say that this real life thing, that how it actually works, the more of, mock arbitrations or mock simulations or moot court type of problems coming in the exams or in our daily teachings, we start with a real life scenario. So for example, you read a case law in, let's say, one of the leading legal journalism pages, that this is a Supreme Court judgment came yesterday. What I do, I change their names, A versus B, I put it in the board, and then we discuss it. These are like small things which you don't think it makes the difference, but in the long run, all of this is going to change the the law school culture in India. And this is not something which I'm saying, from my experience. This is something which I have learned at Stockholm University when I was doing my masters. This is the difference. I think both of my co-speakers rightly pointed out that it's a lot of time, it's the rote learning. It's more like you mug up all the concepts a night before the exams, you go and vomit in the exam. That's not how it is done globally. If we have to become something like a leader in all of this legal education or even in legal market, first we have to start from the basics, which is the legal education. Only then we create a chain of thinkers instead of just mugging up things and vomiting in the exams. We need to change this, and these are some pointers how to change this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your honest perspectives and amazing advice. My next question was about networking and how to build an amazing network, and Akash sir already explained that to us. I would like to hear the views of other speakers about networking and building network.
Just a disclosure that I don't have the questions from the organizers. I just preempted this question. So please don't think I have a list. The other two speakers don't.
Ashwin, you can go ahead. Can I?
Yeah, please go ahead, Harini.
Yeah, sure. So, networking. So basically, how I network entirely. I owe everything to my mood court association. So for a matter of fact, it's just not the MCA. It's like being a part of any association in your college days. Could be any of the associations. You just get to meet a lot of people. Build connections with them. So be it the very little fact that say if the students of the placement cell is conducting this particular event, it could be any one person, even one of the members of the association, who would have contacted the resource person for the day. And that's how you build networks. And it's just like I would recommend that every law school student, from your very initial years of your law school, please do a lot of moods, do paper presentations, do participate in a lot of events that's happening. And especially given today's date, you just open Locktopaz or any other legal websites, you just find a lots and lots of events that's happening exclusively for law students. And it's just not that you will have to go there physically. You can also do it online, and that's how you build connections. So as a law student, what I would always recommend anyone is, don't be an introvert. And this is a profession that does not appreciate a lot of introverts. You just have to come out of your comfort zone. You will have to start talking to people, and that's how you network. And if at all, if you are someone who is not a part of any such, big associations of your college. You could also start networking from your very own professors. So all our law school professors, they have a lot of contacts in the legal field, and they will also recommend you to good offices or good places where you can go and work. So it's just, this is how I network. And I come from a completely non-law background, and I absolutely have no one in this field. And I started networking because of my professors and because of, the various opportunities that I had in hand. So I would always suggest this route to every law school student. That's from my end.
With regard to building a network, it's always a trial and error. Please understand that. Uh, you know, First of all, what is the basic necessity for you to, be build a valuable network is that you need to yourself bring value to the table. Let's say if you're meeting somebody, like let's say you're meeting an IAS officer. Just because you met an IAS officer does not mean that you have a network already. The person that you're meeting, the IAS officer, must believe that you are somebody who can give him value at some place or the other, either in terms of your expertise, either in terms of for example, let me give you this basic, my personal example through which probably you can, this is one of the many examples through which I built a network. For example, I was organizing an event in Soel, and there was this one IAS officer who walked in. He was the managing director of Chennai, of Tamil Nadu Cements, which is like a secretary level position. He came, he saw me, I welcomed him. I spoke with him. When I knew that he was, part of the Tamil Nadu Cements, I asked him. There was a recent MOU that I read in the newspaper somewhere that Tamil Nadu Cements had signed with a private organization. So I asked him about it. How did it go through? And he was impressed. He was surprised that I know about it. And so he took my number immediately, and I was in my third year, mind you. He took my number, and he gave me his also. I did not think of it much. I did not expect him to reach out or anything of that sort. 2 years later, when on my final year, he calls me. He's like, Ashwin, I thought that you were a good law student, and my son wants to take up law. Can you please guide him? So he called me to his house. I spoke to his son, helped him, with the interview rounds of the university that he wanted to go to. I helped him with the CLAT exam, and he's into the law college. And now, imagine, usually people go to people with power for favors, but the person in power is coming to you for a favor. And tomorrow, let's say, and I used it, for example, there was once where I was with a client and I had to get a document registered in the sub-registrar's office in somewhere in Chengalpet. And it was not going through. There was some delay. I thought, okay, what can I do to expedite this? I just had to call this IAS officer. I told him, the moment I called him, within a second, he picked up the call and he's like, yes, Ashwin, tell me, how can I help you? I said, sir, I have this help. I want, is it possible for you to expedite this application that I put in the registrar's office? And within 5 minutes that I spoke with him, the application got passed and the document was released. So, it was not something that I ever thought of when I met him. You understand? Like this is just one isolated event. There have been so many different people that I've met and I've spoken to who have become a valuable asset in terms of my network, and which basically adds more to my value. Let's say if I'm meeting somebody from the French consulate, there was for example, I'm also I'm very close with the Consul General of France in Madras, and he regularly speaks to me with regard to certain aspects of commercial laws because he's also advising French companies in Chennai. So the fact that he knows me, the fact that I can speak, that I sometimes speak to in French, you need to organically build a network. You cannot mechanically do it. Just because you met someone does not mean that they become your network or that that they will help you in some way or the other. You need to show it to them, like how Professor Akash Gupta spoke to you with regard to the the applications that you make to foreign universities. You need to personalize, and you need to show that why you are worthy of their attention, or why you are worthy of being said. It's the same methodology when it comes to building a network. You need to prove to within the first impression that you meet someone, you need to prove it to them, or you need to be able to convince them that you are somebody worth investing in as a network. That's how people will find you valuable. That's how people will keep you in their mind. And if you reach out to them, they will help you out in whatever, and that will, you can use them professionally. You can not, it's not like you're using them for a particular manner. It's that this is how networks work. You need to, you reach out to someone, you ask them to do to help you out with something, and you return the favor when the time comes. So that's how it's always a give and take. It always is linked with value. So you need to understand what are your strong points. First, building a network starts from introspection. You need to know what are your, I don't know why there are firecrackers, but well, it's probably because I made an important point. You need to know that, why are you reaching out to someone, or what value you bring to the table in the first place. And you need to be able to convince that to that person when you meet them. When you think that you want to build a network with someone, you need to be able to indirectly convince them that you will also be a valuable contact for them. It's a give and take. It's always a give and take. So this is the basic principle behind building a network. And as a student, let me tell you, if you have, as I told you again previously, you have the benefit of the doubt. People will, okay, if you tell somebody that you're a student, they're willing to extend some courtesy or some kind of a thing. Okay, fine, this is a student, probably, I can talk to a student. I have nothing to lose in talking to a student. So that can be your entry point. That is how, even when when ISUD was started, it is not only through ISUD but through several other incidents or several other places. I have ensured that not purposely, but rather in a manner in which when you talk to people, you need to be able to, you need to be able to incite their interest in you. You need to be able to. So these are skills that you can only build as you reach out, as you start reaching out to people, as you start talking to people, as you start seeing the world around you. It also starts with what knowledge you have. As I mentioned to you, my first encounter with that IAS officer started because I read an article in the newspaper saying that there was an MOU that was signed. Same way, if you need to be aware of the things that are happening around you, to be able to prove to the other person that you are somebody who is knowledgeable and that you are able to join two dots together, and that at some point you will be a valuable contact for that person. That's how a network is built, and this is the methodology behind it. So please don't. And second thing is, don't stop yourself from reaching out to people. Like how Harini said, it's you need to, especially when you're in a profession like the law, you will have to talk to people. You will have to. It's a profession that is built on a network. You can only make it if you have through some way or the other built a network. So remove that fear of how people will perceive you. Reach out to them. Learn your own methods as to how you want to reach out to people. And I'm sure at some point or the other, by the end of a good chunk of time, you will have a strong network to back you in your profession or whatever you do. So that is what I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your amazing journey and experience in networking. I'm sure that was helpful for all of us. Coming to my next question.
Can I also add to this part?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, please.
Okay. So I totally agree with Harni and Ashwin, what they have said. Some more perspective from my side. So how you build your profile, how you build your networking, and all of this is one question. But let me just ask you this question, and you can answer with emojis right here. How many of you, the students of SOIL, which are attending this, I can see it's 47 people here in this meeting. How many of you have a LinkedIn profile? Why don't you just use a thumbs up? Okay, so we see a lot of you have a LinkedIn profile. Second question, okay? You can use the clap emoji. How many of you have an active link, actively using LinkedIn, like commenting or liking? on posts. Let's say if Ashwin posts about this particular, podcast, you like or comment. Okay, quite a few. Now you can use the laughing emoji for having an updated LinkedIn profile, which means all of your internships, all of your presentations, paper presentation, all of your mood codes, having a updated profile picture, and then actively commenting on people's posts in your feed. Now, one thing is very important for us to understand when we do networking, as Ashwin also pointed it out, that then you have to also showcase that what is that worth of connecting to you. You have to make sure that you connect to right people. If you open, let's say, Harini's profile and you start sending requests to all of the people, I will not say that is a good networking. Let's say if you're interested in arbitration, you follow people, you send requests to people who are into arbitration. Okay, that's one. But now let's break this down into 3 points. How you build networking first in your law school. As Hadi said, within the law school, you have events happening, you have faculties, you have senior students, you can use those particular opportunities. If let's say Ashwin is coming to for a guest lecture at SOEL, Harni is coming, that's the easiest way to network physically, personally. Taking cues from Ashwin's example of this IS officer, best way to network physically. But of course, you have to do something like a background research. For example, for him, he read an article, it worked for him. And sometimes it can be organic, sometimes it can be inorganic, but those are the best options. If somebody is visiting your law school, that's the golden opportunity. Events, guest lectures, or any other thing. Second is beyond your law school. That is something more like internships, where you are working, you have associates working there, somebody who is managing you, who is supervising you. Second is like moods, which Hadi said. When you go to mood competitions, you meet a set of judges, you interact with them, you follow them on LinkedIn and other things. Now, the first time I did Wismoot in Hong Kong, I was unaware that we used to carry visiting cards. I was in my third year of law school in Trichy, in TNLU, and I was unaware that you have to carry a visiting card as a student, which is bizarre for me. Like, how can a student carry this? Because it's a cultural shock for me. And there I saw this, and then I had to bluff. I had to say that, oh, we missed our bag where we had our visiting card, because I can't say that I was unaware of this. Everyone had a visiting card where they had this law student, Tamil Nadu National Law University, something like this. Then there is this LinkedIn QR code and LinkedIn profile and all of this, which was very fancy. And at first I thought it's useless. Why do you have to carry visiting cards? But then I realized a lot of people have problems. Let's say if we are Indians, if you have a Chinese name, it's not very easy for us to remember those names and connect to those people. But if you have their visiting cards, it's very easy to connect with them on LinkedIn. So everyone used to have this visiting card. So I had this visiting card, which I used to use in my internship. So I was at a leading, financial law firm, one of the top ones, which are hired by SBI, ICICI. I went for an interview and I gave my visiting card. Another story comes from Chennai, one of the law firms, and I shared this visiting card. First, the managing partners of both these firms were very unhappy that how can you have a visiting card? So everything stopped right there about my CV, my statement of purpose. They had this question that why don't you tell me why do you have this visiting card? Because it looks very cocky to us. Like, how can a student have it? And I was shocked because I prepared for my CV, whatever things I have been doing. And suddenly they asked me this question, but I answered that, I went to this Wismoot in Hong Kong, and there was this visiting card by everyone. So I also printed one so that I also can give it to them. And then they said, what's the use of this? Then I said, because, you get to, make sure that this is your name, which is spelled like this is your email ID, blah, blah, blah. And it actually got their attention. That how can you have a visiting card? And I'm pretty much sure that even now, as we talk, it's not a standard thing that in the mood competitions, apart from this, not a lot of competitions follow this. So these are just examples how you make sure that you stand out. Now, of course, it comes with experience, or it comes with learning. For example, reading a good article, it worked for Ashwin. Going to a mood, it worked for me. Going to a mood, it worked for Harni also. Third is basically your social media and connecting to right people. So you have to make sure that you have a page, you have a profile on LinkedIn, you are active. When I say active, you have to be updated. For example, some of my LLM students write that I'm a law student in first year of law school at their home law school. Does that actually make sense? It looks very fake. because it's 6 years old profile. It's more like your Angel Priya account, a fake account. So you have to make sure that everything is updated, because if you send a request to people who are professional like Ashwin or Harni, if it is not updated, it looks like it's a fake account. So that's the minimum standard. And when I say active account, it shouldn't be like you have all of the things updated and you don't post anything. It's been 10 years old profile. There is no post, no likes, no comments. You don't even comment on some things which are related to you. Now, LinkedIn also gives you a lot of opportunities. I will say for me, it gives me a lot of opportunities. One short story about this: I got a message from a foreign professor that I'm writing this book, which is published by Routledge, Taylor and Francis, and I'm having chapters on consumer area from developing economies, and I want you to write an Indian chapter. I thought it's fake, because why somebody will invite me? It was like 4 years back. I thought it's a fake message, so I didn't even open it. I thought maybe it's a fake account or something. Later on, the professor, after a week or something, she replied that this is so unprofessional that you are not actually, replying to this message. If you don't want to do this, please let us know so that we can look for some other authors. Then I opened the profile and I checked all of this. It came as a shock that it was actually a real professor who was writing this book, and he was into research of consumer law. It was very shocking. But one of these chapters, in this chapter where there were, I think, 14 different developing economies, and Indian chapter by us. So these are the things which can eventually work out through LinkedIn connections or your network, and you never know the extent of this. Starting from Ashwin getting a document from one of the offices, to getting something like an invitation for an invited chapter in a book. So it can go at different stages. So the idea is what Ashwin or Hari said, that you you can be shy at the beginning. For example, I was very shy in my first, second year of law school. I was like, why I should go and talk to a guest at my law school? It looks bad. What they will think? People will think that I'm very aggressive, blah, blah. I used to think on those perspectives. But it's high time that you start, shedding all of this away, and at least try to talk to people, try to make sure that you at least attempt. I'm not saying that you have to be very aggressive. You have to be organic. You have to try your best. I'm not saying all of you have to be extrovert. If it is something that it's very difficult for you to talk to people like directly in the events, why don't you just send a request and just message them that, oh, I attended this and this point was very helpful. That is also one way to make sure that you pass on your greetings. It's not always essential to talk to that person at that point of time. And a lot of times these things people remember. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your perspective, sir. We sure will start actively using our LinkedIn profiles and building our network. Thank you so much. Now that we've reached the end of the session, I'd like to ask our speakers if you guys have anything else to add on, to tell our audience, any advice.
Can I go first? Yeah. So, so one just small advice that I would give to all the young law school students is that it is your time to explore. So, in your initial days of law school, and provided about our college timing, SOL has a very flexible timing. You just have college for 3 hours a day. So, you have a lot of time in your hands. So, do not waste your time at any point at any point, because I just see my very own batchmates who regret after finishing their law degree that maybe they could have done internships, or maybe they could have done far more when they were in college. So I don't want any of you all to do the same. So it's just not about doing internships or just modes. So you have to explore everything as much as possible during your law school days. And when it comes to building your resume, you have to ensure that you have a very strong backing in every field, be it your academics, be it your co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities. Just ensure that you have a very all-rounded CV, and at the same time you also have some fun in your law school, because college time is the time when you actually have fun. So it does not make like, you just have to keep working, studying all the time, and leave aside all your fun. So you should always ensure that you have a proper balance of everything in your days. And also, as Ashwin rightly pointed out, that law is just, you have various streams in law. So in your law school days itself, just explore as much as possible. If you do like one intern in your, say in your first year, you have started an internship in with a criminal act, with a criminal lawyer, then try it in your next semester, try it with an IP lawyer. So you will know where exactly your field of your interest lies. And also, in your, say in your first year, you are starting up with practicing with an IP lawyer. That does not make, and you keep doing the same for like 3-4 years, and you never even explore any other field, and you will come into a delusion that eventually that you only like IP. So you should never leave any stone unturned. So that's like one biggest advice that I would give to all of you. And thank you so much for inviting me, and good luck to everyone here.
Continuing with what Harini had said, always remember it's not too late to start. You can be in your final year of law college and not have, done internships or explored things. And you can always start, like, as they say, there's a saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. And the second best time is right now. So please understand that it's never too late to start. There are people who have graduated from college, who've gone 5 years into the profession and shifted to a different part and are doing very good. Don't be weighed down by the fact that so many people are doing different things and I'm not doing anything, or I'm stuck in some place. If you get weighed down by that you will not progress from there. It is going to, it's only going to affect your mental health. Please have a positive outlook that no matter what it is, you can still start afresh. And this is the time that you can afford to do it. Your 20s are the time. I'm able to see, I'm hardly 24, 25. I'm able to see that this is where I can explore. Today I'm working in a senior's office. Tomorrow, if I want to do a judicial clerkship, I can do that, or I can do my LLM. This is the time where you can explore and you can take a look at a lot of things, not only in your law school but also in the initial few years of having been a fresh graduate. So even I am trying to find my feet. It's not like I have got everything figured out, or that even I'm trying to understand different aspects of the profession, and it's a continuous thing. There's never going to be a point where you will feel satisfied that I have figured everything out. Please, that is a biggest delusion. You will always be trying to, okay, what do I do? That you need to embrace that uncertainty. And especially in a profession like the law, uncertainty is like something that you wake up to every day. Please understand that and be comfortable with that. And there's nothing, you don't have anything to lose. There's always something to gain through any experience, even if it's like something like a failure, or even if it's something that you're trying to figure out what you like. All of that, as long as you are constantly doing something, or as long as you are trying to find your feet, eventually you will be in a position you will not even know. That probably there are some seniors who tell me, you think that you are uncertain now, but in that moment of uncertainty over the years, invisibly you will find an office that is being created around you. Invisibly you will have a clientele, and by the time you know it, you will actually be thriving in the profession, no matter which part you are in. So please have a positive outlook towards it. You can always start fresh. um, if you have regrets, make sure that you are in a position that you're correcting them. That's the only way you can grow. So make use of this time as much as possible. That is what I'd like to continue with what Harini had said. And again, once again, thank you for this opportunity, for having the chance to speak with you.
Okay, thank you very much, Harni and Ashwin, for sharing these insights. So I'll build up on that, starting with the discussion which we were having about networking. I've shared my details, and on LinkedIn, you can easily find out me with my names. If we haven't answered your question, please feel free to let me know and we can have a chat later. Now, first thing is that what both the speakers said, that rejections, all of us have that. Instead of getting into this phase where you think and overthink. All of us do this. I also do this. But how do you actually counter that? It's fairly simple. If you get a rejection, all of us feel bad. Please, I'm not going to say that, oh, I don't feel bad. I'm very mature. All of us feel bad. But you have to make sure that you overcome that. You feel bad for that day, let's say a day or something, but then you have to start working on your next particular projects. So rejections are fine, but you have to start moving forward. Second is that, what Ashwin has said, that in life, think of it pretty much like a cricket match where you go to bat. When you bat, and let's say if the bowler comes, gives you a very fast delivery, you get bowled, you're out, right? You have to come out of the ground. Somebody else has to go. But what if I tell you that in real life, there is nothing like being out unless until you accept that you're out. You can always have a second shot. Of course, you're not going to hit sixes, fours, and all of this, but you'll get another shot in life. So people who say that, if you miss a chance, it's the end of life, there is no second chance, I don't buy it. It's always a second chance. You have to make sure that you take that particular next opportunity which is there. And in line with these, I have to also mention that a lot of times in these, hustle culture, especially in the Gen Zs or in our generation, we see all of this, that it's a lot of work. Everyone talks about work. It's very important to understand that there needs to be a work-life balance. When I say work-life, it's pretty much, let's say, that what things you are doing in law school, let's say your curriculum, your class participation, your marks, your internships, moves, papers, it's a lot of pressure. I totally understand. That's more like your professional side, but there is also, your personal side, your personal life. Make sure that you don't lose out on your opportunities, your milestones in your personal life. It will never come again. Okay. I say this from my experience. Professional goals, professional opportunities, one is there for you, another one will come. Please don't think it's the last opportunity that you are going to get into a tier one internship. There will be an opening in some other time. Maybe it will take some time, but you will get that opportunity. So stop thinking that it's the last opportunity in your professional life, and please don't, discard your personal life. I'm not saying that I'm against hustle culture or you shouldn't strive for more. Of course, Pepsi says, "Ye dil mange more." Everybody wants more. We all aspire for more, but it doesn't mean that on the cost of your, professional life, your family time, and all of this. Now, how do you actually make the work-life balance? I know that you guys will say that faculties always tell us the problem, not the solutions. So here I am giving you the solution. How do you make the work-life balance? It's simple. It's one word answer. It's planning. It's blocking time. How you do it? It's fairly simple. If you plan your law school, let's say I'm in my second year of law school. If I plan 1.5 years of my next part in law school, if I plan my internships, the moves I'm targeting, what things I have to write, if I plan for almost like 18 months in advance. The reason why I say 18 months on the international standards, if you have to apply for any of the tier one firm like White and Case, Baker McKenzie, or any of the international arbitration centers, you have to apply at least 18 months in advance. They don't take applications lesser than 18 months or 12 months in advance. I know in the Indian culture, we also see that, can you get me an internship the next day or in the next month? It may happen that it works in India, but not outside India. If you are looking at the international, exposure. So what you have to do, you have to start planning. If you have planned the next 1 year, 1.5 years, I don't think it's a problem for you to manage your, work-life balance or your personal, commitments with your professional commitments. Now, how you do it, it's fairly simple. You make a list of opportunities which you are looking at, let's say summer schools, moods, you block the time, and you have to start using calendars. If you are very good with technology, it's very good to use apps like Google Calendar or whatever you want to use. There are so many apps. Or if you are a physical person, then you have to make sure that you follow a diary where all of these dates are mentioned. So you don't mix and match your dates. If you look at any of the lawyers, they follow a diary. Why they follow a diary? Because there cannot be an overlap, right? Similarly, if we do it in law school, it's very easy to plan so that you don't have overlapping commitments and you will avoid it. It looks very difficult at the beginning when you start to learn, but when you build all of this, when you learn all of this, it looks very easy. And once you plan, you block timings, reading times for this. And it's not like when I say planning, you have to make a timetable, which I used to do in my first semester of law school. Morning 3:30, wake up. And then 5 to 6, 5 to 8, I will study before my law school classes, because my classes started very early because it was residential. We were not like SOL students that you get only 3 hours of classes. We used to have morning 8 to 5. And it was a residential law school. You can't just walk away. If you don't walk away, if you walk away, then the wardens will come into your rooms that, where are you? Why don't you attend? So then I used to be like 8 to 5, I'll study. 5, like, of course, the lunch is included. After 5, I take a break of 6, 1 hour, 6 to 10, I'll be in library studying. Please don't plan like this. Instead of that, what this technique is called, it's time blocking, which means instead of doing all of this, you just block that each 24 hours. Let's say if I say 10 to 11 in the evening, or let's say morning 6 to 7, I will read. Now, what I will read, which subject I'll read, that's not there, but I will read for sure something related to my academic side. That's it. I'm not saying that 1 hour, it can be anytime. Instead of saying these aspirational timetables, if you can do that, it's very good. I'm not against that. Personally, I used to make these timetables every time I fail. So if you block timings for these, or let's say, so usually what I do in my work life also, that I block 1 hour, like whatever time I want to make out from the day is for reading emails and replying to it. If you have blocked that 1 hour, you just reply in that particular format. If something urgent comes up, you reply at that point of time. This is how you don't struggle with, replying to emails and other stuff. And once you start learning this, it will ease up. And these are the things which I think you should keep in mind in addition to what Harni and Ashwin has said. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your insights, sir. It was a very inspiring and fruitful session. Thank you so much to all three of our speakers. On behalf of the Placement Cell, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speakers, Professor Gupta, Advocate H.N. Sriharni, and Advocate Ashwin Surain, for their time, honesty, and invaluable insights. Thank you so much for not just sharing your personal experiences, but also the realities that law students that we rarely get to hear. We also thank all the participants for their questions and engagement. We hope this session has helped you reflect more deeply on your own paths and encouraged you to approach our profession with more clarity, confidence, and purpose. E-certificates will be shared with all registered participants in due course. With that, we conclude today's podcast session. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you at our future events. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.